Ahoy and welcome back to the Workaround. My name is Bob Gilbreth. You are in good company with over 11,000 fellow entrepreneurs and innovators who follow my stories from a career in startups and corporate innovation. I'm here to make you think, smile, discover a shortcut to success or a trap to avoid. And this is my outcome from a return to a big conference, the Cannes Lion Advertising Festival in the beautiful location of Cannes, France. I am sorry if you are sick of hearing about it. You've seen too many LinkedIn updates with pictures of people in sunglasses eating snails and sitting on beaches and doing that kind of thing. But I promise you there's a lesson here. You will go to that conference or something like it someday, or you have your own version of this conference, whatever it is. Yes, it's a big fancy conference. It's not a pain in the ass to get there. It's very nice. But there's a lesson that I think has been in the air, and as I'll talk about, it took me some time to actually go back to this thing but no longer be in a position of having to be the extreme hustler like I have in the past, to really see a lesson that is kind of right there in front of our eyes that maybe, hopefully, if we could start talking about the reality when this story comes up, when this joke comes up, that it could lead us to changing how we work when we get back to the office. So here goes. This is called It's Okay to Meet Local Friends at Faraway Conferences. Why we let our guards down on the road and what happens next. I spent last week at an industry conference on another continent in a wonderful setting. Of course, it's got to be a wonderful setting to attract industry titans at a time of year when we celebrate Father's Day and take time off for vacations. This was my 6th time attending and the 3rd company I've represented at this conference. But I haven't been there in 8 years, and it was the first time I went as an investor rather than an operator. This meant I had a lot less pressure and a more open calendar. My mind was clearer, so I filled it by making observations. And thanks and apologies to Rob and Steph, who are operators, who had to hear me making all these observations, sometimes after 1 a.m. Anyway, today I'm going to share an observation that sticks with me the most, and one I hope we can keep in mind as we return to reality this week. It's funny how we have to come all the way out here to meet. That's what my friend Jack says as we sit down for breakfast on a beautiful sunny morning at an outdoor cafe across from the ocean. It's Monday of the big conference, and most people are just landing now. Jack and I got in on Sunday, and this is the first meeting for either of us. His observation is one we've all heard 100 times in conferences around the world. It never gets old to hear this self-owning joke because it's so true and so strange. But no one goes past the observation to break down why we meet out here more often and what that means. But, like I said, I've got some time to observe. Jack and I live in the same city, about 30 minutes from each other. We've known and liked each other and worked in the same industry for more than 20 years. Yet, we've gotten together locally only 4 or 5 times. I've seen him more in out-of-state conferences than I have in the place where we both live. That's odd, but that's not all. Our conversation this morning, and all of our conversations away from home, are so much more interesting. Neither of us is pitching or being pitched. We don't have a meeting to run to next. Our phones remain locked in our pockets. So we're much more real with each other. We share deep stories about our families, our companies, and our hopes, dreams, and struggles. It's not that we're going somewhere special. It's that we're getting away from somewhere. We're escaping our offices and daily work routines that often feel like they strangle us with schedules and deliverables. But more importantly, we're getting away from our usual selves. At home, we're stuck in our roles. Senior executives in fancy offices are protected by administrators and chiefs of staff who safeguard their valuable time and attention. Vendors with quotas to hit run to hit their numbers. Managers have people and processes to manage. and everyone is stuck in meeting, email, CRM, and group chat hell. There's no time for relationship building, even if a water cooler or kegerator is just down the hall. Well, just want to go home and log off. Escaping to a work conference takes so much pressure off. Everyone back at that home office knows we're out here doing important stuff and in a different time zone. They tend to leave us alone. But this is just the first step. Once we land, the real magic happens as the walls of our egos begin to dissolve. Everyone here is part of a shared community of individuals who have achieved a measure of success in the industry. Through some combination of skill, passion, luck, and climbing over the competition, we've made it past the velvet rope and into the VIP section. So we relax a bit, give everyone a friendly nod, and try to act like we've been here before. In some cool clubs, there's still a lot of preening and pressure to stand out. But this is still a work conference, and we're all here to sell something. We're trying to deepen our relationship with a client, or hoping to open the door with a new prospect, or speaking on a stage, hoping to convince the financial markets that our company deserves a higher share price. Everyone feels a little bit smaller and more real when they're hustling for attention. I go to see the CMO of the world's largest marketer make his way to a small stage hosted by the world's largest retailer, the one he sells more than $10 billion of products to each year. That retailer is hosting the event in hopes of selling billions of dollars in new advertising products to this CMO. They need each other. Riding in the elevator to this event with me is the CEO of the largest and hottest advertising agency holding company. He's frantically pushing the elevator closed door because he fears he might be late for a front row seat to see his biggest client on this tiny stage. You gotta serve somebody, and any good servant is humble. Our egos slip down another notch. We're all a bit naked out here, and it's not just because it's sunny and hot. As our guards come down, we see that we're just fellow humans living the struggle and the dream. The more exotic the location and the farther away the time zone from home, the better the bonding. The setting may be lovely, but we're out of our comfort zones and cling more tightly to each other. We need to start doing conferences in the hills of Tanzania or the jungles of Brazil. We'll boost more deserving local economies and move people farther away from their regular selves. And let's hope for a travel snafu. Dare I say that? Yes, let's hope. On my previous trip to this conference, an Uber strike turned all of our travel plans upside down. Guess what? Strangers united in a common cause and figured it out together. We shared precious car rides, split helicopter costs, and helped each other navigate the train system. Challenge breeds camaraderie. On our own, without the mediating shell of our hometown and corporate ecosystem, we become more open to others. A shared baguette, bottle of wine, or vape pen helps unlock bonding. A full belly and looser headspace shift our ego down another notch. It's what humans have been doing with campfires and peace pipes for thousands of years. And many interesting things happen in these temporary spaces once people become real again. Senior executives spend quality time with suppliers and their own junior employees. There are many unscheduled minutes when senior leaders are forced to engage in conversation and learn about what their support staff sees on the ground. I must have heard, "How can we improve?" a dozen times from the lips of C-level captains of industry. It's a bit like an annual undercover boss conference. Ruthless competitors build bridges when isolated together. I've seen investors admit their biggest mistakes. Agency competitors discuss ways to raise the waters of their entire category together. Competing brand managers advise each other on their career prospects. And startup founders compare notes on which clients to embrace or avoid. As our guards fall, we have the kind of conversations we always wanted to have. We realize no one knows what they're doing, but we can get a little closer to the truth by helping each other find shortcuts. Together again, we recall the special place we have in each other's hearts. In 2008, I delivered the first keynote speech for my book at a conference. I met a great guy named Sean there. Last week, we met again for the first time since then. I can still remember our years ago half-drunken conversation about industry trends while closing down the bar. He told me a copy of my book is still on his desk. We confront some of our biggest enemies. Last week at the conference, a friend moaned to me about wanting to avoid, or punch, a former boss who betrayed his trust. The next day, we all ran into each other in the hotel lobby. Guess what came out of it? They shared a bro hug. We're trapped here. We see we're just people, flaws and all, and we can get over ourselves. While on the road like this, I've offered and accepted countless apologies for real and perceived slights with coworkers, clients, and business partners. We hug it out, let it go, and laugh at how silly we were in our career's youth. Alas, when I arrive at the airport at 6:30 a.m. on Thursday to begin my first of 3 flights home, I see that my peers and I have already slipped back into our regular work personas. In the departure lounge, several people who had been relaxed and laughing just hours earlier are now hugging their laptops close and dialing into conference calls. But what if we nudge our conversations further and keeping it real? The next time you're in Cannes or Vegas or Tanzania for a work conference and someone says that line, "It's funny how we have to come all the way here to meet," why don't you reply, "Yes, because we were outside of our bubbles, and it means we become more open, trusted, and value human connection. How can we keep this feeling together when we get back to our offices?" Maybe a little progress will be made back home, or maybe we'll just make this an excuse to get together here again next year. All right. Hey, how we might work together. A2 Influence, the company I was representing at that conference at the Cannes Lion Advertising Festival, is our content development agency. We help some of the biggest brands and retailers in the world create and distribute authentic content at scale. Fleet is our holding company for services businesses like A2. We invest in leaders who are ready to start their own companies. We also do a little M&A. If this might be you, please hit my open office hours link and we'll have a chat. Revelin is our consulting practice that helps with revenue alignment, growth management, and other RevOps functions. Our CEO, Jess Schumann, is standing by to share a no-cost assessment for your business. And then finally, as always, remember, I've got that link. I've got open office hours. Pick some time. We can discuss any topic, questions, feedback, networking, anything, seriously, anything. This is my treat of my week. Spend some time having conversations with old friends and new friends, so please don't hesitate. And then finally, the cool content of the week, a little something I found meaningful, you might agree. Related to the topic, one of the downsides of writing or talking about fancy conferences is that it can stir up all of the negative emotions about our place in the office hierarchy. Not everyone can attend, so those with the largest budgets and most prestigious titles tend to win the free trips. They seem to be living the dream while we can't help feeling FOMO until it's our turn to step on that rung of the corporate ladder. Jack Rains recently wrote a great post called "Status Games Rule Everything." It's an insightful look at those status games that we all play, beginning with the colleges we attended, the degrees we earned, and then it continues through every title, perk, award, and the number of people we manage. We human beings are constantly judging ourselves by how we stand in comparison to others. It's natural. It even can have some positive sides to it. But Jack Rains points out a massive pitfall. He says, quote, "This desire for approval makes status dangerous because we can fall in a trap of chasing status for status's sake, with little regard for the kind of status that we actually desire. And unlike money, status is domain specific." I'd say the funny thing is, like, once we win a status game, we end up wondering, now what? There is always a bigger pond, a higher title, and a more velveteen rope. And the people you meet at those higher levels are just as self-conscious as the rest of us. Status games are all around us and can play a role in helping us advance our careers. The key is playing them to get something truly meaningful. Otherwise, you're just getting played. All right, that is the workaround for this week. Thanks for listening or watching. Ahoy for now.